Good Friday morning to you. I'm Pat Kernan. Thank you for joining us today at patspapers.com for our list of the top headlines from U.S. newspapers. We'll begin today with the Charleston Post and Courier. Detailed coverage here and in other nearby newspapers about the coastal wildfire yesterday in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The 4-mile wide forest fire destroyed 15,000 acres and 70 homes. It's being called the worst fire in the area since 1976. The continued trouble at Chrysler is the subject of the front page story in the Wall Street Journal. The story says Chrysler will likely file for Chapter 11 protection, even if it does end up coming to an agreement with Fiat. The New York Times Company has restated its May 1st deadline for union concessions at the Boston Globe. Now, the rival, the Boston Herald, is providing some quote-unquote advice this morning. Number 10 on that list of 10 suggestions. Cancel pricey newsroom subscriptions to Sanctimonia and Pomposity Today magazines. Well, it's come to this. The zoo animals are being laid off. The headline on page 1 of the New York Post is "Economy's So Beastly, Bronx Zoo Fires Animals." The Arabian oryx is among the animals the zoo can no longer afford. Credit cards are in the line of fire. Barack Obama calling for new limits on fees and interest rates during meetings with the CEOs of major credit card companies yesterday. That report in the Miami Herald. Unemployed, unapologetic, and unrestrained. That's how the New York Times describes Dick Cheney. The paper says the former vice president has become a vocal critic of the Obama administration in his retirement, taking a different path than his predecessors. We've got 3 sisters, 3 babies in 3 days. The New York Daily News picks up a story from North Carolina about a newborn trifecta. Speaking of family achievement, what do you call a world-renowned paleontologist? Well, he's the black sheep if his 5 brothers and sisters are all neurological scientists. The Chicago Tribune writes about the Sereno family. They'll be honored by their alma mater, Northern Illinois University, this week for their collective academic prowess. What is in a name? Well, there's a lot, according to a small farming community in California. The LA Times visits the town of Hollister, which is accusing the retail giant Abercrombie & Fitch of hijacking the town's name for use on the wildly popular Hollister surf line. Abercrombie's refused to open a store in the economically frail town, and that's only made the relationship worse. According to Professor Gretchen LeBune of San Francisco State University, sunflowers are the best bar in town for bees. With the help of nearby residents, she's planted 25,000 sunflowers in the Bay Area. The professor hopes to learn more about the sharp decline in the local bee population, including the efforts to count those who stop by for a drink from that bar she referred to. That's a story in the San Francisco Chronicle this morning. Also from the Chronicle, the 5 best games ever made for the old Atari 2600 video game system. The winner, the Indiana Jones-inspired Pitfall, in all of its low-resolution alligator glory. Somehow I think the Atari 2600 might fail to keep today's kids entertained for long. Great story in the final edition of the Escape section, which is being killed by budget cuts in the New York Times. Advice here for grandparents who are asked to babysit. Ideas include always being prepared with the kids' favorite foods and setting aside a designated drawer so they can feel like they got some of their own things around. The Washington Post profiling hungry girl Lisa Lillian this morning, author of the best-selling cookbook in the country. She bases her recipes on the premise that America is a nation of snackers. It helped her last book to sell more copies than a cookbook by the reigning queen of convenience, Rachel Ray. What's the cheapest way to hear some opera in New York City? Hop on the M8 bus, says the New York Times. Driver Christopher G. Dolan spends most of his route polishing his arias. For $2, you can get an earful. I want to finish with this great front-page photo of Hugh Jackman walking away from an explosion. The headline in the Life section of USA Today is, "Yay, it's the end of the world." This is the newspaper's summer movie preview. Each weekday we thin it out so you don't have to. You can find links to all of these stories on the main page at our website, patspapers.com.